Hey, Jeremy. Good to see you guys. Thanks for the link, Laura.
Sure.
Hello, Dane.
Hello, Stan.
All right, cool. So it looks like everybody's here. Um, I'll make the announcement that this meeting is being recorded. Laura, would you do the roll call, or do I do the roll call?
You're welcome to, but I'd be happy to.
Sure, if you want to just go for it.
Okay, Counselor Dobbs,
Here.
Counselor Perry,
Here.
Member Cutler,
Here.
Member Moses,
Here.
and Counselor Moulton.
Here.
Okay, great. Well, it looks like we don't have any members of the public. Is that correct, Laura?
That's correct.
Okay. Well, first I want to say that thanks again for electing me as chair at the last meeting. I was in a car in a parking lot in Chicago during that meeting, and so I felt a little bit unprepared. So I just apologies for that, and much more organized now. So thanks for having me. And so the next item on the agenda is the minutes of March 31st, 2025 organizational meeting. Is there a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Seconded.
Looks like Dane made the motion and Stan seconded that. Councilor Moulton, I mean.
I would move to approve with the addition that we change the spelling.
Thank
remember.
you.
Of Dane, yes. Your last name was
two
spelled wrong.
T's.
Yeah.
2 T's. Yep. I'm so accustomed to it being spelled wrong. I barely notice.
I didn't see it till I sent you the link and saw the email.
All good. All
And-
good.
Okay, should I roll call?
Yeah,
Or,
for the vote, yeah. Or for the
Oh, for the vote. Yeah.
for the minutes, yes.
Counselor Dobbs,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Member Cutler,
Yes.
Member Moses,
Yes.
and Counselor Moulton.
Yes.
All right. So moving on, we have a discussion about community outreach, like groups to contact and places to hold discussions. Councilor Stan Moulton sent us a really good list that I think is good to start with for people to reach out to. We could mention that. I could mention that list now while we're talking about it. Councilor Moulton says that based on my prior work with the Charter Review Committee and the ARPA Community Grants Review Committee, here's a start on groups we could invite. The Greater Northampton Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Northampton Association, Ward 3 Neighborhood Association, Florence Civic and Business Association, Bay State Village Association, Leeds Civic Association, Village Hill Northampton, Broadbrook Coalition, Strong Towns Northampton, Northampton Neighbors, All Out Adventures, Friends of Northampton Trails, Climate Action Now, and Northampton City Lights, and Tenants Association of Northampton Housing Authority Properties. So that's what we have so far. Anybody have? Go ahead, Counselor.
Just to be clear, that was intended to be a starting point, not an exhaustive list, and of course it was done without any consultation with the rest of you. So those are the kinds of groups that came to my mind.
Great, thank you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Is Ward 3 really the only ward that has its own neighborhood club, so to speak?
Well, that's interesting. Ward 4. I've done neighborhood. I've done meetings with Northampton neighbors, but
Yeah.
it's not specifically to it's not specific to Ward 4, but I
Yeah.
feel like they do. It's similar to a Ward 3 neighborhood association, but not the same thing. Yeah. I don't know. Councilor Perry, do you know about other
I think
neighborhood
the Ward,
associations?
I think the Ward 3 has the most robust out of those. And part of it is due to the fact that it is, a little more dense than other
Right.
wards. But as you said, Jeremy, the Northampton Neighbors kind of fills in that role for us here at Ward 4.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Um,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Counselor Perry.
I was going to say thank you, Sam, for this awesome start of a list. There's a couple places I would also kind of reach out to, and I can put together a list for folks, but I was thinking things like, um, Forbes Library, the YMCA, and see the Survival Center wasn't on here as well. And Center for New Americans. I'm trying to figure out whether this list is going to be places we invite to come in or places that we also want to get out the information. So I don't know if we want to talk about the difference between those two things. Um, but Also Wildflower Alliance is an organization that I've worked with in other groups. Mana
Mm-hmm.
would be really nice to reach out to. They do a lot of work in our community. So yeah, those are some things right now coming up. I'm gonna type a list real quick.
Cool. Yeah. Molly, go ahead.
I was just looking at the section on disposal of solid waste and all of that, so it also makes me wonder about pedal people who hold
Oh,
the city
yeah.
council.
Yeah.
That's a great idea. Also, I know that Forbes Library has a specific group that they do. It's similar to our Disability Commission, where they have a group that meets to discuss disability issues in Northampton. I forget the name of the group, but I can look that up and send that to you. But I think that would be good good to reach out to them too. And another thing we could start thinking about, while we're on this agenda item is a where is to talk about places that we would hold discussions, or whether it's virtually or in person, and like where a location might be able, like maybe the senior center. I don't know. Is that something that people think might be a good idea?
The senior center is definitely one of the most accessible buildings in town from about 5 different standpoints.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I would definitely support holding some kind of a meeting or a hearing there.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I like that. That sounds good.
The,
I'm sorry, did anybody say Mana or any groups
Yes,
that work
Councilor
with it? We
Perry.
did say Mana. Okay, cool. Just checking.
Councilor Moulton.
the two other places in addition to the senior center I would mention are Jackson Street School and we had on the ARPA Community Grant Review Committee, we had one session up at the Florence Heights Community Room.
Oh,
And I'm thinking intentionally of places that are close to Housing Authority
yeah.
properties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Does
that's a great idea.
Meadowbrook have a community room kind of space?
Does which?
Meadowbrook, the one up on Bridge Road.
Well, Meadowbrook is not a Housing Authority property. That's a private property, and I don't know whether it has a
Okay.
community room.
There's also a community room in the building where I live. I don't know if that's ever something that we would want to utilize, but there's a pretty good sized community room in the apartment complex where I live in Ward 4.
Okay.
Well, I've had meetings here before.
Um, does this committee have a budget?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't think so.
That's a good
Okay,
question.
we
That's
don't.
Sounds like no,
Curious
right? Yeah.
on the grounds of could we offer food or childcare at any of these meetings or hearings? I think it would be I think that would be a definite way we could get more folks to show up.
Yes, I think that's a great idea. I don't know. I don't think we have a budget, but we could perhaps, I don't know, look into how we could do that.
I think we would, we don't have much of a budget for city council activities, right, Laura?
Right.
I think we would have to look to the mayor's office. I think that that childcare in particular is one that would be, I think, well received in terms of um, providing some funding.
Is, just to say, is the provision of childcare at meetings of the public for the city of Northampton something that we would ever want in our ordinances?
I mean, yeah, that sounds like it could be a possible suggestion for a new ordinance.
Can I tag in Alan Seawald in this one?
Yeah.
The lawyer's saying, who's going to provide the childcare? Who's going to be responsible if someone is hurt? There's a lot that goes along with it. And I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it is something that's not as simple as you might think.
I have two thoughts as somebody who works for the agency that runs Head Start and has worked in childcare for a large part of my life. Hosting in a school like Jackson Street would lend itself to good childcare space. If for nothing else, we could let them run around in the gym or something like that. In terms of liability, I do believe in terms of liability, I think we should talk to churches or places that offer informal childcare during things like services that are like not necessarily in the guise of a school or, you know, religious education. And then as far as who would do it, I think we could sidestep some of the liability issues by making sure that we put the offer out to people who are already employed by local childcare institutions so that we know they're Cory checked and like, you know, like solid childcare providers. Or we might consider contracting with an agency that provides childcare. I'm not going to say community action because that's where I work, but let's say one of the churches in town, Cory checks all of its educators and childcare providers and is like willing to assume the responsibility for them and offer them the chance to, you know, pick up some extra cash doing a city council gig. Do those present any obvious red flags I'm missing?
I think what we would need to do is actually to bid it out and contract for these services. And
Okay.
so there would be a process. And not saying it's not doable, but
Mhm.
I don't know whether that I don't know whether it would really spur the kind of attendance that would make it worthwhile. I don't know.
It could also potentially be, again, dreaming big, that if someone were to come to the meeting and say, if I have a demonstrated need for childcare, that let's say the meeting was an hour and a half long and going rates for a babysitter right now are $20 an hour, that, like, you know, more of a supporting people monetarily, but that's not
No, that's not a public purpose for spending public funds.
okay.
Mhm.
That would not work.
That would not work.
That would not work.
Right.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be really interesting if like if we did put out some sort of bid, you know, or an RFP or something, and a group like the Y was like, you know, you can host your meeting here and like we'll cover the childcare or something like that. It'd be interesting. But Molly mentioned something that I think could uh help keep this in a reasonable range, which is that an ordinance or something to that effect could say if somebody demands childcare for a meeting, right? So that it wouldn't have to be at every city meeting, right? But that it would be kind of like triggered by request. So if you request childcare, you know, within a week of this meeting, then the city is obligated to provide it or something like that, so that we're not committing ourselves to like something that's way out of scope.
Sounds unmanageable to me, but I'm sure Laura will figure it out.
Oh, that's
I-
mean.
No, that sounds like a lot to,
Okay.
as you can see, we're barely staffing this meeting, and to suggest that we're going to have to provide
Childcare.
childcare providers
Yeah.
in addition to staffing the meeting. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
I
Understood.
Is the city required to provide interpretation services if someone requires it?
question. I don't know the answer to that question.
I think that I don't know the answer for sure, but I think that, well, I know that you can at least reach out to our ADA coordinator,
Mhm.
and he would try to facilitate that. I don't, I think that, whether or not he would be able to find one for sure before the meeting, that I wouldn't know, but there definitely is a process for that though,
Okay.
like for requesting
Yeah.
that.
But don't forget, to the extent that's required, it's required because of statutes that have been passed. It's different than childcare during a meeting.
Sure.
Mhm.
Good.
So kind of in the vein of this, my thought, I agree with Solicitor Seawald, is that it feels very difficult to do a case by case basis on having kids. And this is something, thankfully my kids are now almost both teenagers, so they're a little more manageable. But my thought is when we're thinking of places to hold these meetings or discussions is making it so that everyone has access. So by having them, if we could do a hybrid version where we could meet in person or for instance, at Jeremy's complex, we don't have to all physically go there, but if there is a way that they can have a screen which allows people to interact with us might be the better option, or is how I'm feeling. Or if we could have a space at one of the schools or a library where folks could gather, like you could bring your kids, have them grab some books, might be a in between, as opposed to everyone
Yeah.
individually needs childcare or we try and get them there.
Yeah.
That's just what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I agree that yeah, if we could make the meetings hybrid, I think that would be like even more accessible, and the more accessible we can be for people to be able to, access our meetings, I think that's the better way to go. Um, yeah, I like kind of support your suggestion of maybe the library or the school JFK school perhaps. Yeah, I think that those might be good places to consider to have like a hybrid meeting.
And they've had it at the senior center, for instance. I know that when we were talking about um, them redoing their contract with Comcast for Northampton Open Media was an example of sort of a hybrid meeting where people, I think, Stan, Councilor Moulton, you were there in person, but I was able to attend while cooking dinner at the house. Would give that flexibility.
Great.
Should
Sorry, go ahead. What do you say?
I'm just wondering how we should break this down, because
I was wondering too. Yeah, like what do we want to accomplish today and for this part of the discussion? Yeah. Yeah, because we're breaking it down into the groups that we want to contact and also the places we want to hold the meetings. Anyone have any thoughts? Should this be a list that we continue, like that it grows, or that kind of grows over time? Maybe. Go
How
ahead,
do
Dane. Go ahead.
Sorry, how do people feel about using this meeting to come up with like a draft of a communication that we will then send out over the course of the next week to representatives at these organizations? Does that feel like a good use of this time? Because I feel like if we're drafting the invite, right, or like explaining what we're doing and explaining that we're going to be asking for their input, that might help us clarify where we're going next. Would that work for people? Molly, what you thinking?
I think it could be useful.
Yeah.
Maybe we could see how far we get in 5 minutes.
I'm down for that.
So yeah, that's a good plan. So to kind of draft a template of a letter that we would send to people.
Yeah. Or even just a list of like,
Oh,
maybe not writing it in paragraph form, but being like, we are the Ordinance Review Committee. This is what we're here to do. Right? We know that we don't know everything. We would like to know if you have opinions about ordinances that you have come up against in your work.
that sounded great. What you just what you just said.
And here is a link to the ordinances. Is there anything that is not covered by the city's ordinances that you would advocate be included for the sake of efficiency, equity, whatever other?
Yeah.
What can we tell them about what we're trying to do
We're
to
trying
give them a little guidance?
we're
Well,
trying to keep the
oh,
ordinances.
sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, we're trying to keep the ordinances current, up to date, that they both reflect what is actually happening in the city and also can guide what happens in the city.
Also, I was just gonna add that like we're looking for suggestions for ordinance changes, whether they're additions or deletions. Also, you know, adding adding language to the ordinances or taking language out of the ordinances that shouldn't be there, that kind of thing.
Subject line, why should you care about city ordinances? Just
Yeah.
kidding. I would suggest opening with an example of a city ordinance that is on the books that we are considering. Like, for example, did you know it's illegal in Northampton to push a peddler's cart up Main Street? If you've ever wanted to do a deep dive, we want to hear what you think.
But you can drive a tractor.
But you can drive a tractor. Also, you can have camels.
Yeah.
And,
I did not
and
know that.
right to farm includes raising animals for fur.
That's really cool. It's wild.
Yeah.
I just know that if I'm at work and I get an email like this from a city group wanting me to like think about ordinances, I'm like, oh, that's a cool project. I will answer this never. Unless I work with a group of people who frequently bump up against city ordinances or frequently feel targeted by city ordinances. Like, unless it's already kind of stuck in my craw, it's not something that I feel inspired to dive into or really have any sense of how city ordinances could make my job or my life better. Unless I have a vendetta about potholes or camels.
Anti-camel legislation. I'm wondering if maybe, Laura, did you only send to me and Jeremy the sample letter that you sent out to the department heads?
I think so. Yeah. I can double check, but I think that's what
Yeah,
I would
that's
have
right.
done.
We could maybe start there.
You want me to send it to the rest of the group?
Sure. Or we could share the screen
feel
right
like-
now. Or
Oh, okay. Oh.
well, what were you gonna say, Garrick?
No, I was going to say we could either share it now, and I think that we could take a little bit of the language that Laura's sending out to department heads, but also I really like the idea of being like, here's a quirky ordinance that you didn't know about, pushing a cart or camels.
Yeah, I like that idea too.
Carts and camels really feels like a good way to hook people in because I would click on that. Carts and camels.
Mhm.
Push carts and camels. Push carts, peddlers, and camels, oh my.
Looking for this in my inbox here, what I sent to you. 1 second.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I think maybe we could I like the idea of having 5 minutes on it. And so if Laura, if you wanted to send it to us later, we can all review it
Mm-hmm.
and then talk
That's a
about it.
good idea. That would work too.
Again, we just can't do the serial communication stuff outside.
Right. Right.
Oh,
Yeah, Alan watching me.
right.
She's
We
not-
can't do like
Camera's
group
not on,
emails
but-
or anything like that.
Yes.
But two of us can talk at a time, right?
Yes. That's how I know about the camels, because Molly told me.
As long as neither of the two speak to anybody else.
On the
Right.
committee.
Yes.
Perhaps I wonder if two people would be interested in taking what gets sent out and co-drafting an email, and the rest of us can just trust it. And
That works for me. Yeah, I like that plan.
I'm a fan of trusting my fellow committee members.
I am not volunteering, given that I have not communicated with so many of these groups before. But if no one else also volunteers, then I could.
Well, what do you guys think?
I would volunteer to look over the letter once Laura finds it and like do a draft pass.
I just sent the letter. I did. I mean, I could screen share it, but did you just want me to?
Yep, I'm pulling it up right now.
Is the proposal to create a subcommittee of two to work on this? That's another possibility, is have a subcommittee of two work on this and bring it back at the next meeting. That's generally how these things, sort of get done. I usually find that, communal drafting is not the most efficient way
Hmm.
to proceed on these things. And I don't want to be a stick in the mud, but there is a very thin slice of people, of residents and citizens of Northampton, who have ever thought about ordinances. And, I just want a little dose of reality that you're not going to bring out the hordes to talk about ordinances. They're just, most people, unless there is some specific thing that affects you in a way that's different than most other people, they just don't interact with the ordinances of the city. And this is my, I think, third run through this with ordinance committee. And I just want to tell you that I don't want you to be disappointed if you spend a lot of time on this and no one shows up, or very few people show up. It's a real possibility.
Thank you.
I may
would-
be editing this letter right now as we're talking and have something for the committee to review before the end of the hour.
That would work for me too. Yeah, I think so. I remember we talked about at the last meeting that having a subcommittee might be a little too much work for Laura. I think that was part of the discussion because,
Yeah.
am I remembering correctly? Yeah, yeah. Because we'd have to schedule that meeting, and yeah, exactly. So yeah, if we could have that conversation today, that would be amazing.
Is this a letter that's already been sent to department heads?
No, I think it's just like a rough draft of a letter. Is that correct?
Laura, you're muted.
It's the letter that was sent in 2020 with the
Oh,
last.
in 2020,
review
right?
committee.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, that's
okay.
what I did send out to them all.
Laura, do you remember if anybody answered this email?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we got a lot of the planning department. I mean, they keep a running list of ordinances for this periodic review purposes. Yes, I'm trying to think if I got other department heads. I know the city clerk had given me a couple. Yeah, I did get responses from department heads.
If I may, you will hear from department heads, and you will hear from City Hall. I was talking about the general public
Right.
and their interactions with ordinances. Oh, there are definitely issues out there for City Hall folk.
Sure.
Yeah, and I think that can be a pretty straightforward letter. We don't need to hook them in the same way that we're trying to hook the public.
That's true. Yeah. Because they will already be knowledgeable about ordinances and yeah.
probably already have a list of changes or suggestions that they want to bring forward this time.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Derek?
that was kind of my point, is to utilize the sort of structure that Laura had already sent out last time to department heads. We're going to obviously send that out again to folks with, I think, the Jeremy, you and I talked about, the only thing I would add to that email was asking if there's anything that should be looked at for ordinance.
Oh, sorry, you froze up a little bit.
But what I'm hoping what we're doing is going to be using what Laura put for the department heads and kind of tailoring it to the average folk in these different groups. You know, because they don't have a running list, I am assuming, as Alan said, of ordinances, because that's just not what they do.
Right. Sorry, I did miss some of what you said because you froze up a little bit, but I caught most of it.
I apologize. I think people in my house are doing a lot of streaming downstairs.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
I have a draft that is written that could be used for both department heads and the general public. It is in your inboxes momentarily.
Okay, I will check my inbox. Thank you.
It says, I can just read it into the record and
Sure, go for it.
and then you also have it. Dear Blank, did you know that it's illegal in Northampton to push a peddler's cart up Main Street, but you can drive a tractor down any city road, or that any farm within Northampton city limits is permitted to raise camels for farm labor or food? We've learned all this and more during the first meetings of the Ordinance Review Committee. As you may or may not know, the city charter and code of ordinances require the mayor and city council to provide for a review of city ordinances at 5-year intervals in each year, ending in a 5 or a 0, beginning in 2015. Since it is 25, Mayor Shara and the council president have appointed a 5-member ordinance review committee consisting of all of us. At the committee's request, I'm compiling a list of suggested revisions to the ordinance. To help identify needed changes, I have been asked to reach out to people who live and work in our city to see if you are aware of any specific changes needed. This would include internal inconsistencies, outdated information, and other revisions of a technical nature. For example, reference to the Public Works Commission or any other entity that no longer exists. Please forward any known discrepancies to me, citing the section of the ordinance and the nature of the change needed. The Ordinance Review Committee will be meeting on blank and blank. If any proposed changes need to be explained to them directly, thank you for help with this ongoing codification. It's really just added an introduction and tweaked a few things to make it not department heads, but I think it works. Do you guys think it works?
I only have an addition, which is there's the discrepancies and then there's what's above and beyond that would support our city in being a place where people can thrive, or just with some sort of language toward is there any way in which we want to?
We are also interested in proposals that would add or change ordinances in ways that improve people's lives and business in the city. Yeah. Does that work?
I like that, yeah. I was thinking along those terms too.
And we could say including but not limited to matters of equity, accessibility, any other words?
Equity, accessibility, fairness.
That's good, yeah.
And
health.
Health, yeah, love that. All right. That works for me.
And health, also, if someone has environmental concerns, hopefully that will make it feel inclusive of that.
All right.
Are we trying to entice people to come to a meeting or send us a list?
Mm,
Yes.
Which one?
No, both.
This sounds like the list, not the attend.
Yeah, maybe this particular letter would be about the ordinances, and then before we get to having a meeting.
Like, we haven't set public meetings yet.
Right, exactly, yeah.
But I think what people send us back is going to shape how we, like, we may have meetings that are based on topic or section of ordinances. Like, we are having a meeting to talk about any ordinance things you have on your mind, or are we having a meeting to talk about sidewalk ordinances or pothole ordinances or camel ordinances?
so it could be a please stay tuned in the future as based on these, so based on suggestions we like please stay tuned for an announcement about a time to gather and talk in person or online about proposed changes.
That sounds good. It kind of lays out the whole plan.
Yeah. So actually, so what we can say, the committee, instead of that last paragraph, right, we'll say the committee plans to host several in-person or hybrid public meetings to discuss ordinances, to discuss certain ordinances. Well, we won't be specific about it. In the meantime, please forward any known discrepancies citing the section and nature of the change.
Please, or any discrepancies or suggestion.
Yeah.
Councilor Moulton, it looked like you might
Yeah,
have something to say.
I would suggest that we are going to hold several public meetings to discuss topics that may lead to ordinance changes or additions, not necessarily existing ordinances.
That's a good point, Stan. Yeah.
Yeah, that might be more inviting as well for people that don't know much about our ordinances. Alan Seawald?
I suggest this get a lot shorter. This is way too much information. We need to hook them with the first line and then ask them whether they have any ordinances they're concerned about. And if we do, send them to Laura. That's really, I mean, there's just, I mean, I'm afraid that you'll hook them with the first sentence, you'll lose them in the fourth sentence. And that would be my suggestion. I think this is an opportunity for people to send things into the committee and then for the committee to work through them and hold meetings and discuss them. But to me, this is just too long.
So
That's fair.
perhaps I remember the first couple of some of the first sentences you had around how often we meet, da 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 da.
Yeah, I'm
5 years.
trimming
You could
those
just-
right now.
You could just say like the current ordinance review committee, and if we wanted, we could hyperlink that to the place in the charter that says there's an ordinance review committee, and someone who's curious to learn more about what the ordinance review committee can follow it.
And I'm assuming you're just anticipating sending this out by email to a representative of each of these groups. Is that what you're envisioning? It takes a little time to go on the websites to identify whoever the contact person is for each group. Just be aware, I've sent out a lot of resolutions in my time, and it took me quite a while to get all the name of food service organizations. Or the last one, we had the HIP resolution recently. It can take some time to just get that information unless it's available someplace that I'm not aware of. I could ask the mayor's office, but.
I'm almost done trimming. I can get us down to 250 words, Alan. Can you live with that?
I can live with whatever you do. I'm just trying to help you make this more effective. And
Can we enable screen sharing or no? I could just pop this up for you guys to see and approve instead of sending you a million copies by email.
Sure, yeah.
Oh, I can request. Oh, nifty. All right, here we are.
Just attempted to make you, yes.
Yep, there we are. All right, hang on, let me zoom in. Do, do, do. Can you guys all see?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
Yep, works for me.
So do you want, Dane, would you like me to revert to my prior career? And,
I was hoping you'd ask.
I think
Okay.
the third
Okay.
paragraph I don't think needs to be there.
uh,
Oh,
I think we can strike the third graph.
Yeah,
I was trying to
okay.
trim it, but honestly, there's enough context in here that I think people will get it.
yes, okay.
And then instead of I have been asked to reach out to people who we are reaching out to people
Yes.
who live and work in our city.
Yes. Yes, we, the committee.
I think it was because Laura herself is sending it out and people are used to talking with her, but
Okay.
I think this works.
Well, it is coming from the committee, yes.
Any specific changes needed to our code of ordinances? In the third paragraph.
Sorry, Molly, one more time.
We are reaching out to people who live and work in our city to see if you are
Needed to our code of ordinances.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. And properly capitalization for C and O.
Stan?
Code of ordinances, sure, you can uppercase that. And I don't think, I mean, since this is going out to the general public, and the Public Works, the Board of Public Works has not existed for many years now. I don't think we need that example. I mean, most people are not aware of that there was once a Board of Public Works.
Does the city use the Oxford comma?
That's a question for Laura.
So use the what?
Sorry, I'm sorry. This doesn't have to be what we spend our time.
There's another copy editor in our midst. Um, do you, Laura, in your communications, do you put a comma before the last item in a sequence?
Oh, if there's an and, no, I don't.
Okay.
All right, so the city,
Oh, is that an Oxford comma? Is
that is called an Oxford comma. And I notice here that
no.
it is not used in other spots. So we'll take a no Oxford stance.
This is what it is to live in community.
It's okay, Molly. We'll talk about Hitler and Stalin later. There's an old Oxford comma joke where the punchline is
yes,
Hitler and
gotta go.
Stalin. Yeah.
How about interest in proposals to add or change ordinances?
One more time, Molly.
And we're also interested
In proposals
Proposals
to instead of
to-
that would.
yep, to
Love
add or
it.
change ordinances for the sake of improving people's lives and business in the city. Of improving, yeah.
Um,
Well, we got it down to 200 words.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think the last sentence is going to mean much to the general public. I mean, uh, the codification, I mean, that's more for department heads.
This ongoing project.
Yeah.
I like that.
So, in the meantime, please forward any issues or suggestions. Perhaps. Please.
Works for me.
Or please,
We already said it inconsistencies, so like discrepancies would fall into that.
and nature of the change desired, perhaps, instead of nature of the change needed.
Or just nature of the change.
Yeah. Or the section of the ordinance and desired change.
She got us down to 199. Look at her go.
All right.
All right.
I think that's good enough.
If you guys are good with that, I will send to Laura.
How's everybody feeling?
Yeah, that
That's
was
good to me. Councilor Molson?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So that tells me hopefully that the agenda for our next meeting will be reviewing anything will include reviewing anything that's come in as a result of this email, as well as figuring out who else to send it to. Does that?
What you mean we'll figure out who to send it to the next time? Oh, sorry, Laura? We can't quite hear you.
Your mic is on, but your sound is off. That's odd.
Oh, there you
There
are.
you are.
Did you want me to send it to department heads too? We're sending this to the group set.
Yes, department heads too. Yeah, absolutely. So if nothing else, planning committee will send us the list they've been compiling and we can
Yeah.
start there. Yeah.
Are there any like commissions or committees we want to send them to? Like, for example, I wouldn't mind if we sent one to the Disability Commission. I feel like there would be a response to that for sure. And maybe
Well,
oh, go ahead.
I think that we can send it to department heads and then ask them to distribute it to the committees that they staff.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, like the planning and sustainability would be.
Well, Keith Benoit then would.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like he's the ADA coordinator, so
Yes.
that'd be great. Okay. Well, the next item on the agenda was to discuss a discussion on who we want to bring in to be part of the conversation, such as department heads and city employees. So I guess we sort of covered that part of the discussion. Is that right? You feel like we did? Okay. And then we have discussion on historical ordinances. Maybe this is getting ahead of ourselves now. I don't know. Eventually we will want to we will want to look into historical ordinances that need to maybe don't belong here, don't belong anymore to exist, or that changes need to be made to them. Any other thoughts on that? Yeah, I guess maybe we're not there yet. What do you guys think in terms of this part of the conversation? We could move
I
on
will
from here.
confess that I could talk at length about literally anything Molly has found in the last week, but also that it's not the most methodical way of going about things.
Yeah. Perhaps this is something we would want to like look into, each one of us individually, and then see what we come up with. I guess I do have a question. would be how, like, what would be a good way to research our historical ordinances, like older ones? That are they on a website somewhere? I don't know. Yeah, I guess that would be part of the research that we'd have to do, is just to find out where they
Where they live.
where they live. Yeah.
The
Ordinances aren't dated, are they?
Oh,
sometimes
I see.
there's dating of amendments.
Yep,
Um,
more
the-
recent amendments are dated.
The ordinances themselves provide for a book of ordinances that is a paper copy. I don't know whether that gets recycled and reprinted or whether that means that somewhere there is a printed copy historically going back.
I don't think you're going to find a printed copy of ordinances, historic ordinances, and I'm wondering what the. I think when I think about the historic ordinances, I'm thinking about older ordinances that are still on the books that you're going to find online. I have one of those books. I don't think it's updated anymore. I got one of those big ordinance books when I first started here 13 years ago, and it was updated periodically, and I would get updates, but because it's all online, I would never really take the time to put the updates in the book, and I think I have a pile of updates on top of the book. If anybody would like my book, I would be happy to remove it from my office permanently. But it's all online, so that sort of has replaced the paper book. But you won't find historical ordinances that are no longer on the books, so to speak.
Gotcha.
And it is possible to download as a PDF a copy of the ordinances. That's what I've been using to read through.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, I will do that too. I haven't looked at that yet. Okay.
A question for Solicitor Seawald. How does it work in terms of meeting outside of this meeting? If for something like a Google Doc where the link is made available to the public, where people put these are ordinances that need to be looked at, nothing like that.
You can't Google Doc among the outside of a posted meeting. You
Okay.
should not be circulating Google Docs among a quorum of the committee.
Okay. Haven't done it.
You can forward a Google Doc and say, this is something I'd like to talk about at the next meeting, but no one can reply all to that. No one, and you would not want to get more than one reply to that, because when you get your second reply, 3 people are now engaged, and that's a violation of the open meeting law outside of a posted meeting. Can always send documents around for consideration.
Like, please read this before next meeting.
Exactly. This is this is a document that I would like to discuss at the next meeting. The best way to do that, of course, is to send it to Laura and have Laura circulate it. And Laura is very well educated on cautioning against reply all. So.
Great. Okay. Discussion on previously suggested ordinances, as well as new suggestions for review. So I guess perhaps one way we could look at this is just to start compiling a list of ordinances, even though we haven't reached out to everybody yet. We can at least start with that list of ordinances that we at least think that we might want to look at, like the ones that we've already suggested, or we could suggest more. I don't know. How do you feel about that, Councilor Moulton? I remember you had concerns the last time about starting with suggestions of our own, or before we talk to the public.
Oh, no,
Oh, you
I
didn't?
think,
Okay, okay,
well, I just didn't want to get ahead of ourselves
gotcha.
and sort of start a roadmap with just with our ideas. I think that there is some agreement among at least the counselors who have been, who have been dealing with constituents' concerns about things like the noise ordinance
Okay.
and the sidewalk clearing ordinance. Now, Alex Bowman, who
Yep.
know, knows about the ordinance review, suggested we also look at sidewalk sweeping. So that would perhaps come under a larger sort of umbrella of ordinances related to sidewalks. But no, I think it's fine to start that list with ideas that we've heard from others, and then just expand on that list based on public input.
Great. Yeah, that's awesome because that's kind of what I was thinking too. Awesome. So yeah, so maybe we could start compiling a list of what we've already talked about and anything else that we think of during this meeting. For example, oh, sorry. Go ahead, Laura.
Do you want me to start a list? I could extract it from the minutes of the last meeting
Oh
and
yeah,
call
you
it
could
something
just
like Rules Committee priority topics or,
yeah, that's a great idea. Like because we've
okay.
already mentioned a few of them,
That wouldn't take much time actually, so, okay.
and then perhaps you could also add the one the Councilor Moulton referenced the suggestions from Alex Bowman. I think there were two suggestions that he made.
Yes,
One was about I forget sidewalk sweeping, and the other one was about vegetation.
Vegetation encroaching on sidewalks. Yes.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, also, I just wanted to mention I got a text from Councilor Perry. He says he's going to restart his computer. He's
oh,
having a tough time, but he's going to be right back. We'll just text him back real quick. Okay. And while we're on this item, are there any other ordinances that anybody had thought of before today's meeting that they wanted to bring up?
There are some of them are very nitpicky and others feel larger. So just the couple larger ones that I would say is, so first we could see if we want a gender review of the ordinances or whether that does not feel like a priority at this time. There's there's one that I just put a whole bunch of interrobangs, so I just have to look back and see what that was. There is, I noticed that there was the solid waste and disposal and the recycling doesn't seem to include compost at all. And I do know that at least the Locust Street transfer station has compost. I'm not sure if there are requirements for composting for individual residences in Northampton. If that is a requirement, I haven't seen it yet. I don't know if that's ever been proposed. But there's no section that says what people are supposed to do with compost. And something that I noticed is that I didn't know that restaurants and businesses are required to provide takeout containers that are recyclable, compostable, etc. I do know that there are restaurants in the city that give takeout in black plastic. And I've been told that black plastic is not recyclable in our city because of the way that plastic gets sorted. And so I have had to dispose of a lot of black plastic takeout. So I don't know if that is something that we would need to close a loop outside of the ordinances or within the ordinances to bring restaurants into like practical compliance.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I did not know that about black plastic. Yeah, I think that sounds to me like something that we should explore. Any other
Any-
thoughts? Okay. Well, we can keep thinking about that. Um, the next item was to discuss the process for reviewing ordinances. So I think we have been discussing that, but we could talk a little more if you want to, if we want to. So I mean, we're part of the process is happening right now, which is reaching out to people, community outreach, and and then I guess we'll get to a point where we're going to want to figure out what we do after we've reached out to the public and we have all of our suggestions. Then there'll be a point where we, I guess, make recommendations, or is that how what we're seeing is going to happen? What we're thinking is going to happen? Make recommendations for changes.
You're going to be required to file a report
Okay.
with the city clerk and with the city council, and then your job is done, and the city council will take it from there and do with it what they will do with it. And so that's the process.
Great. Thank you for clearing that up. That sounds good. Okay. Does anybody have any other thoughts they'd like to share about the process? And we can, of course, go back to it, keep talking about it another time. Okay. And then the last item before adjourning would be just to talk about our meeting schedule and like I guess how often we want to meet. It's sounding like Wednesdays might be the time, or the day. I mean, Wednesdays at 6. Does that sound good to people? As something that we continue doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's-
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a workable day.
And how often do you think we should meet? So this is new to me because I've only been in committees that meet once a month. So if we were to meet, I mean, unless we have special meetings, but if we do have more than one meeting, I guess I don't know how that works. Like more than one meeting per month, like every 2 weeks maybe. Any suggestions?
I think we said last time that like every 3 weeks
Okay.
seemed like a reasonable way to kick off, and I think we're still in kickoff.
Yeah,
If
I would
I'm-
agree with that. Yeah, we're still in kickoff. For sure.
So if I look at 3 Wednesdays from now, that's the 30th, 7th, 14th. So that would be May 14th.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable. It gives us enough time to get prepared and for the next meeting and reach out to people and gather their thoughts and opinions.
Laura, does that feel realistic to you? Because
Yeah.
you're going to be the one sending out all these and looking up these emails and stuff.
Right.
Yes.
Good point.
Okay, cool.
Definitely, I can. Sure, I can do that in the next few days.
Thank you, Laura. Okay, so sounds like our next meeting is going to be Wednesday, May 14th at 6 o'clock. Sounds good to people? Okay. All right. So is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Well, before we
Oh, sorry,
adjourn,
go ahead, Sandy.
Jeremy, I just wanted to offer to Laura, since I compiled that written list that's been distributed, if you have trouble finding contacts, I mean, some of them are obvious, but if you have trouble finding contacts for like Strong Towns, Northampton, I'm happy to help
Okay,
with that aspect, because I am mindful of the amount of work that we're putting on you. And
Exactly, yeah.
so
Okay.
please let me know if I can help with any contacts. And then there were some other groups that were mentioned in the course of the meeting. So
okay, I will.
okay,
I'll Google them and find it pretty quickly.
okay.
And that goes for me too. Yeah, if you need my help at any point, just let me know.
Okay.
Okay, great. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Moulton, seconded by Dan Cutler. Roll call, please, Laura, to adjourn.
Okay. Looks like Counselor Perry didn't make it back, so, okay. Member Cutler,
Yes.
Member Moses,
Yes.
Counselor Moulton,
Yes.
and Counselor Dobbs.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
night, all.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
Yeah,
Good
thank
night,
you so much.
everybody.
Yep. See you next time.
See you on May 14th.
Bye.
Okay. Mhm. Good night. Perfect. Okay, 'cause